Right. So the topic basically is revolving around the mitochondrial resilience as well as the biogenesis, which really can be modulated through the Ayurvedic adaptogens. So here in a brief introduction about what actually is the mitochondrial resilience, which is basically is important. Why? Because we are dealing with a lot of stress nowadays, whether this is oxidative stress or inflammation happening around because of the diseases and other way around and metabolic overload. So that's why the metabolism is affected profoundly. And mitochondria is something which is actually is mainly involved in functioning of overall organs. So that's why the mitochondrial resilience is very much important to sustain. So here is a core mechanism for this particularly, which I have to tell you just briefly about it, wherein basically the AMPK and PGC1 alpha is the master regulator for the mitochondrial biogenesis, and EFM is the transcriptor, which is ultimately responsible for the biogenesis as well as the oxidative phosphorylation proteins synthesis. And ultimately, they are responsible for all the ATP formations and maintaining the integrity side by side for the mitochondria by producing more of the proteins like MFN1, MFN2, and OPA1. Basically, these are the fusion and the fission proteins, which is maintaining the integrity of the mitochondria. And once there is, because of the aging or because of any kind of oxidative stress or inflammatory stress, there is a wear and tear of the mitochondria, so that need to be replaced uh, just to regenerate and to make the more of the mitochondria. So this is the triad basically working in our body in more or less in an efficient way till the time we are actually not having any kind of stress, changing the homeostasis in our body. Uh, so that stress could be any kind of outer environmental stress, which is could be radiations or xenobiotics, which we are having around, or intracellular stress also is one of the main determinant involving a lot of metabolic enzymes overfunctioning, or endoplasmic reticulum stress, or apoptosis, or autophagy. Uh, Basically is dysregulated. So these all things ultimately is affecting the bioenergetics as well as the redox state of the mitochondria, and ultimately results into less ATP generation and fatigue consequently, as well as the free radical damage happening in different organs in multiple ways at multiple levels, as well as the lipid peroxidation can be on a higher side if we are not able to maintain the lipid metabolism in a good way. So the markers which really can identify these kind of oxidative stress could be the ceramides, or maybe the nuclear factor kappa activation is there. So these kind of biomarkers which can help us to identify whether the stress is overtaking this kind of homeostasis which we are trying to maintain in body is good enough to maintain it too. But still, this triad itself is resilient, working at the three levels, as I already have explained, is biogenesis, redox regulation, as well as the inflammation regulation. So that already we have spoken, so I'm not going to go in detail of that thing. Now, the main thing which we really have to talk about is how we really can maintain the resilience of this mitochondrial function, so that we will be able to help us to maintain all the biomarkers as well as our organs metabolism in a healthy way. One could be the exercise, but exercise sometime when we are doing is is not able to maintain the eustress. Rather, it is converting to the oxidative distress whenever we are doing overtraining, or whenever we are having compounding effect of the environmental stress, or maybe because of the inflammation happening inside our body. So ultimately, this kind of uh, shift is happening inside our body, and that shift we really can actually compensate by taking Ayurvedic adaptogens, and there is substantial evidence available right now which really can help us to find out in terms of multi-omics that Ayurvedic adaptogens are actually helping in multiple ways to negating these kind of stress inside our body, whether by sustaining the AMPK activation, or by protection of the mitochondrial membrane through the fusion or the fission proteins, as well as by buffering of reactive oxygen and nitrogen species. And inflammation is something which we all know is a main forte of adaptogens, which they are working on. So herein in the mitochondria, by modulating the myokine signaling, the inflammation is getting compensated when we're taking right adaptogens here. So this is when Ayurvedic adaptogens are helping at multiple levels. This is just the overview of that thing. But how and at what levels they are affecting and which particular adaptogens we really need to take in different situations, that we're gonna discuss now in next slides. This is a Ashwagandha. It's an Indian name, but the botanical name is Withania somnifera. Wherein I have taken some researches which already have been done just extensively on Vidania, wherein as you can see here in this research which we have taken in from the randomized control trial done, which you can see PC1 is shifted towards the positive side. So there's a lot of distinct metabolic signature change happening in terms of metabolites like proline and acetyl-orthonin, and different amino acids are changing towards the positive side, and ultimately which is showing that the biogenesis is happening because of the ashwagandha, or you can say Vidania's intervention. Moreover, the alpha-ketoglutarate, which is a known antioxidant cofactor, is also is getting increased. So ultimately, it is also helping to maintain the redox homeostasis. Uh, Along with cytidine and cortisol levels are decreasing appreciably, and these are the clear-cut inflammatory markers. So this is the balance which we really have achieved in different our case studies, which we are doing parallelly in our organization here, which are validating these researches already published here in this domain. Next is the curcumin. Everybody know about the curcumin. It is a well-established inflammatory herb, which is helping in the inflammation. Uh, Apart from the inflammation, it is also helping to maintain the mitochondrial health as well. By preventing the lipid peroxidation, as you really can see here in this, ceramide is one of the inflammatory pro-oxidative marker, which is decreased in a good way when we have done the curcumin intervention, along with the increased level of the phosphatidylcholine. It's a phospholipid. Basically, ultimately helps to maintain the membrane integrity of the mitochondria, probably, and that's the thing which is helping to maintain the mitochondrial health. And NAD, which is ultimately is helping in the mitochondrial signaling through the serotonin, is another marker which also have changed when have done intervention in this study, which have been done by the Chen et al. In a metabolic study of the curcumin pre and post exercise in the rat liver samples. There is another study which we have taken from the Curcumin's lipodomics analysis, wherein I just want to point out few of the things here, the which is already reiterated, like phospholipid metabolism is affected here in this study as well, and mitochondrial fatty acid oxidation is also have been improved, and ultimately which is increasing the membrane fluidity by increasing the saturation, unsaturated uh, fatty acids level comparatively to the saturated fatty acids. As you can see here, oleic acid is comparatively is increased, and arachidonic acid is also increased, which is somewhere is also helping to certain extent maintaining the um, inflammatory signaling in a good way. There is another adaptogen which is used in good way, specifically for the cardiometabolomic adaptations in Ayurveda. And since we all need to have the good cardiac health, so obviously this is something which is also helping to increase the mitochondrial health, and that's why also is maintaining the metabolic uh, health in a good way. So here in this study done by the Kumar and Mr. Bhatia, where they have studied particularly this phytomedicine, the metabolic adaptation, and the markers they have found is arginine and nitric oxide signaling on a higher side, and this is something which is helping ultimately, that endothelial function as well as for the vascular dilatations. And beta-alanine metabolism is also increased. So you can see the log-fold changes here in that, which is particularly responsible for the buffering as well as anti-fatigue effect by increasing the muscular strength. Carnitine levels are also is increased in a good way. So arginoluric acid is particularly found out as responsible for decreasing the reactive oxygen species stress. So ultimately, we can say that thing for the cardiac or metabolic adaptation, the terminal argillella is something which is definitely is helpful by increasing the ATP production as well as the mitochondrial biogenesis, and also from the endothelial function improvement. This is having very good results in our patients as well. There is another less known adaptogen, which is Cissus quadrigularis. This is something which is particularly given for increasing the bone health in Ayurveda, but this is also helpful for the muscle strength as well as muscle anabolic strength also. As here in this study, it is also showing that the creatinine as well as phosphocreatinine levels are increasing comparatively, and carnitine levels are also increasing, which is somewhere is showing that thing that fatty acid oxidation is also improved, and that is for but also is responsible for more ATP generations. And the lactate level is decreased, so glycolytic pathways are comparatively down regulated, and aerobic pathways are getting upregulated. So that's why it is also is helping for the mitochondrial health as well as for the increasing the AMPK levels and serotonin levels, and for the mitochondrial as well, biogenesis and the energy productions. The main biomarker which we can see here in this is osteocalin, which is ultimately responsible for muscle mitocrosstalk, is also have increased here in this in one study, which also is helpful in maintaining the muscle health. Okay. Next is the Triphala. This is basically is a combination of Umbellica and the other two, Terminella cebula and Terminella bellerica. This is a combination of these three herbs, and these three herbs are ultimately are basically involving in improvement of gut health through the gut mitochondrial crosstalk. In this study, why I picked this study, which is beautifully showing us that by intervention of Triphala, we can see a wide range of changes in the short chain fatty acids, which is acetate, butyrate, which is increasing, and as well as the glucosamine is something which is also increasing to a larger extent. And these are the glucosamine is something which is helpful for the antioxidant defense as well as for the mitochondrial genesis. Moreover, this is also helping for the gut-brain axis um, actually maintenance by increasing the GABA levels as by making more of the tyrosine and tryptophan. So that's why they are somewhere helping for maintaining the neuros hormones or serotonin particularly, as well as dopamine levels to wider range. So this is also increasing the mental resilience as well as maintaining the gut bacteria flora and metabolites in a good way. Okay, the berberine is something which we normally give here in integrative medicine by to increase the energy levels in patients who are having fatigue, or maybe in the cancer cachexia patients also, as uh, this particular herb is helping to increase the AMPK, serotonin, as well as PGC1 triad activation. And this is one triad which is ultimately responsible for the biogenesis as well as for increasing the redox homeostasis by another axis improvement, that is NRF2 and ARI X is also, along with the other markers which we can easily see here. Improvements as in ketoglutarate level, malate, as well as the acyl carotene levels. As you can see here in the citrate as well as the ketoglutarate levels are on a higher side when we have done the interventions, and as also done in this research as well. So these are ultimately basically responsible for increasing the antioxidant levels and the antioxidant and proteins secretions. So babin is something which we normally give to the patient who are comparatively having low energy level or the more stress in a day-to-day lives, just to compensate the stress which they're having and to optimize that stress. Tinospora cordifera is a herb uh, which we normally give to the patients who are having more of the inflammation and particularly hepatic inflammation. So in that, this is working wonderfully. As you can see here in this, the ceramide levels are decreasing after the intervention of the Tinospora cordifera. Also, the triglyceride levels are decreasing, and as it is also indicating, once the ceramide levels are decreasing, the beta oxidation is definitely on a higher side by increasing the lipid peroxidation levels. So this is decreasing a load over the liver sometime, and detoxification process is on a higher side, and MDA levels is also getting decreased by intervention of the Tinospora cordifera. And along with that, the inflammation because of the primarily lipid peroxidation is also decreased, which we can see through the nucleus factor kappa signaling as well. Uh, yeah, there is last one more herb which I really want to discuss here, is which we have seen also the very results when we are giving, particularly for the metabolic syndrome for the patients, and they are also working for increase the metabolic resilience as well. This is working on the multiple levels because this is called basically this is something which is not only helping in the TCA cycle improvement, but also bile acid metabolism augmentation. So this is optimizing the liver health as well as the energy levels along with the glutathione metabolism. This is primarily helping for the antioxidant levels to increase and optimizing the detoxification process and through the urea cycle. Um, so you can see here in this. So this is the drug which is somewhere helping particularly for the different phenotypes, not for the all phenotypes, so which we'll also discuss in the next slides, which kind of adaptogens we have to give to which particular phenotypes, as well as which markers can be optimized by giving the different herbs as well as a combination of the herbs.
For timekeeping, 2 minutes, please. 2 more minutes.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So herein I just have maintained consolidated recommendations for these herbs based on their actions as well as the biomarkers change which we normally have seen when we are giving interventions of these adaptogens. Like for the lipotoxic stress, we are normally giving curcumin as well as the Picrorhiza, as and for decreasing the inflammatory stress, again Tinospora and Triphala is working wonderfully. So again, there is always a question in the that what kind of adaptogens to be given in a good way to see the good results, which we really can't see in every patient. So we really have to be very selective when we are giving different adaptogens. So here in Ayurveda really help us to identify the actually the combination of Ayurvedic adaptogens as per the phenotype of the patients, as which is called Prakriti in Ayurveda. So I just don't want to mention in detail that thing. Just there are three prakritis as per Ayurveda. That's prakriti, which are having more of the lipotoxicity, susceptibility, as well as metabolic rate is on a higher side. That's why the inflammation is higher side. While in Kapha Prakriti people, the glycolytic dominance is high, and which is decreasing the low-grade inflammation in Kapha Prakriti people. And in Vata Prakriti people, comparatively, the anabolism is on a lower side, so oxidative stress is comparatively on a higher side for them. So that's why the personal recommendation once will be doing the assessment as per the phenotype of the patient. So in that ways, the outcome we can have in a more good way when we are giving the adaptogens as per the phenotypic susceptibilities to different diseases. As you can see here, I have consolidated the key genes already have been identified, which can broadly categorizing the human phenotypes into three categories: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And there are a lot of researches already have been done for the molecular signatures, also validating that these Prakriti is comparatively is having the different molecular signatures on a higher side, upregulated or downregulated in a different ways. So that's why we really have to go for the personalized approach whenever we are giving certain kind of medications, diet, as well as the herbal interventions to them. So ultimately, after all this thing, which I really want to stress upon is the precision nutrition as well as precision medicine, particularly find its answer in the phytochemical signatures correlation with the Prakriti or phenotypic levels, and which is very difficult to identify nowadays. So Ayurveda really can give us an insight about the assessment of the human individuals as per their assessment tools. And through that thing, we really can identify the molecular markers panels. And once we can identify molecular panels, deviation basic depending upon the susceptibility of these phenotypes, then definitely we really can have comparatively more predictive and precise nutrition optimization as well as the medicine optimization for these patients. But there are a lot of research yet to be done in this area, which is basically is to find out the dose response of the adaptogens and stratifications of Prakriti phenotypes accordingly to have the multi-omics panels for them, as well as mitochondrial images and cryo image also can help us to validate these studies. And once we really can have the sufficient evidence, then definitely AI modeling can help us to escalate it for the population studies as well, and more of the longitudinal and cohort studies. And this ultimately it can be a doorway for our predictive, preventive, personalized, and precise therapies in terms of nutrition as well as medicine for the patients or the individuals on a larger level. Thank you.